Grace and peace, beloveds, and welcome to worship. It's so good to see all of your faces this morning. If you are a person that just happened into this building this morning, I want to tell you up front that it's an unusual Sunday because it's not just First Congregational here this morning. We are also joined by our friends from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship and from Manhattan Mennonite Church. So that's why people are extra smiley and chatty and catching up with friends they haven't seen in a while. Over the summer months, we have 3 shared worship services together, 1 in each of our buildings, and this is the final one of the summer. And we're so glad that you are here this morning. This morning in worship, we are also going to be blessing backpacks or other educational symbols that you might have as we bless our teachers and our students of all ages. And we also hope that after the service you will stick around because we're going to have snacks and conversation and good times together, and we'll do that through there. The folks that are on Zoom, good morning. Hi, you guys want to wave at the Zoomers back there? Great to have you with us. And after the service is over, we'll also make sure you can stay put and unmute yourselves and visit with each other if you would like. I'm joined this morning by our other 2 lovely pastors, Pastor Isabel and Pastor Sarah. You know Isabel, of course, but most of you haven't met Sarah before. She is the sabbatical pastor at Manhattan Mennonite, while Pastor Melissa is on sabbatical. So, wave to them too. Hi, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Here at First Congregational, we're a part of the United Church of Christ, and in our denomination, we always say that no matter who we are or where we are on life's journey, we are all welcome here. So it is our hope that you will feel that sense of welcome this morning, that you will know that however your spirit is today, that's absolutely fine, and that your presence here enriches our time of worship together, and we are so glad that you have just made time in your schedule to come. So we're going to enjoy some centering music from Alicia, and as we do that, you're invited to just kind of settle in, maybe take whatever things that you're not going to need with you for the next hour or so and set them off to the side. Bring yourself fully into this room. It always takes my spirit a little bit to catch up with my body because I've been rushing around. So as we prepare to center ourselves, let's maybe just take one big deep breath together. As we settle in for this time.
We begin our service in gratitude to the members of the Ka, Osage, and Pawnee nations and all the people and beings who gathered in circles here long before we were known to this land. And now let us call ourselves and be called into the presence of that which goes by so many names and no name at all, with this responsive reading which you'll find in your order of worship. Slow us down today, Spirit of love. Give us time to hear stories and ponder them, space to marvel at your work beyond our schedule and plans, pauses in the rush to judgment, room for welcome. Where we so quickly think we understand and fill in the gaps with assumptions, pull us back and let all our senses work together to experience the fullness of grace. In community, in the world, in us, in this time together, may we be attuned to your presence in the unexpected. Amen.
Good morning. It's such a pleasure to be with you all in worship today. My name is Sarah Dick, and I'm filling in, as Kayla said, for the regular pastor of Manhattan Mennonite Church, who is on sabbatical this summer. And so thank you to all 3 churches for welcoming me to this as a guest to your pulpit this morning, and to Pastors Kayla and Isabel, who have welcomed and oriented me very graciously to this collaboration. Please join me in prayer. Holy One, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing to you, our breath and our life. This morning we have two texts to explore. The first is a 19th century English fairy tale told and retold and remixed in many ways, as we have just heard, for our delight and our spiritual formation. The second is a first century Galilean tale that also has been told and retold and remixed for our delight and our spiritual formation. Let's start with Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or Goldie Rocks and the Three Bears. We'll see how we can fit that in. I trust most of us are familiar with the original version, but this is an awesome version that we got to hear this morning also. In this story, we first meet the three bears who've made porridge for their breakfast. It's too hot to eat, so they go out for a walk in the forest to let their porridge cool. Then we meet Goldilocks, or Goldie Rocks, a curious child with golden hair who enters the bears' home while they're out on their walk, or out to audition for new singers. She tries all three bowls of porridge, then all three chairs, then all three beds, or the mic stands and the instruments, each time finding the baby bear's portion just right. Not too hot, not too cold, not too hard, not too soft, not too tall, not too short, but just right. We learn what's just right for Goldilocks, the intruder, but not for the residents of the home she has let herself into. This audacious child has helped herself to other people's food, other people's furniture, other people's instruments, and deemed some of it not right, and some of it just right. I'm afraid I've been that audacious child, entering someone else's space and judging it as some things as not quite right and other things as just right based on how they suit me, rather than how they suit the person or people whose space I've entered. From the perspective of the three bears, though, everything in their home is just right. The piping hot porridge and the cold porridge, the wood chair and the plush chair, the tall mic stand and the short mic stand, the tall bed and the small bed. Each element of their home is part of an ecology of care that supports the well-being of the whole family. Think about your own home for a moment. What's in your home that's just right for you and for any beloveds you might live with? Go ahead and close your eyes for a moment if that helps. I hope you can think of several things in your home that feel just right when you encounter them, even in your imagination. If you live with plants or other creatures or other humans, what makes it just right for them? What in your home helps to create an ecology of care to support your well-being along with others in your home? When I think about what's just right for me at home, I think first of the backyard hammock swing that I bought half a dozen years ago for my daughter that she never really liked. But it's just right for me, as it turns out, when I need a nature break, a rest, a quiet spot. I think of my bathroom wallpaper that looks like an underwater forest and delights me, but might give others a headache. I think of my yard, which is just right for me and a bummer to my spouse. He wishes it could be finished and orderly, but instead it is a riotous work in progress. His just right spot is where he gets to chop wood and stack it for the wood stove in our home. What makes your home just right for you is a gift, a precious part of your home ecology that's essential so you can be present in this life as your best self. Creating a home that's just right isn't about following trends. It's not about having lots of money. It does require, though, your insight and clarity about what you need to thrive. We naturally create a just right environment, as the bears did, and just right ecosystem for ourselves when we're in touch with what is consoling, what is life-giving for ourselves. And we have the resources within and around us to move toward that consolation. Let's not confuse this just right ecology with the cereal aisle, where our American individualism provides hundreds of choices so that individuals can be happy with the perfect cereal. That would be a Goldilocks view of the world, where I sample this and then that, and then help myself to what I like without consideration to others. And God bless those of you who love the cereal aisle. Finding what's just right in our homes helps us create an ecology of care that allows us to flourish together in human community, even a human community of one and one's things. The bears demonstrate a collective understanding of just right that Goldilocks, in her individual quest for just right, misses. Well, what happens if we bring this collective understanding of just right to the parable of the soils we also heard? The Galilean ecology described in Jesus' parable includes 4 different soils. 3 soils that are described as too hard, too rocky, or too weedy to allow the seed to grow and produce grain, and 1 soil that's good, or just right, and produces abundant grain. Last summer, a friend preached a sermon that asked, what if the good soil does not exist without the birds, the rocks, and the thorns? He shared retired professor of geology George W. Fisher's reflections on this parable. Fisher challenges the notion that the good soil is the only soil that's just right. He points out that in first century Galilee, Roman imperial demands for productivity were disrupting local, sustainable ways of farming. So he retells the story something like this. A farmer who knows the land well has gone out to sow, and some of the seed falls on the path, packed too hard for it to germinate. The seed produces no grain, but birds eat it up and transplant it, replant some of the seed where it can germinate. Other seed sown on rocky ground does germinate. The seedlings flourish at first as the bright Mediterranean sun drives photosynthesis. But as the seedlings wither into the soil, the organic matter they produce begins to transform that thin soil into a rich humus over the course of years. And the seed thrown among the thorns, those thorny shrubs have deep, strong roots that keep good soil in place and allow it to accumulate, creating islands of fertility in otherwise barren ground. The initial growth of the seed, plus the stability of the thorns, is an early step toward restoring the fertility of distressed land and protects it from erosion. And when some seed eventually falls on the good soil, and there's adequate rainfall and adequate rest for the soil, the sower and the ecosystem are working together, and that seed produces a miraculous yield, even 100 times what was planted. Fisher summarizes, this ecological perspective shows that each of the sower's 4 habitats plays a vital role in the health of the land. When the harvest is good, the first 3 habitats seem to have no value. But when the rich soil begins to lose its fertility, the processes at work in those other 3 habitats gradually restore fertility. From this collective ecological reading of the parable of the soils, we can see that, as Fisher writes, partnership, symbiosis, and generosity are central to the ways God has chosen to create all that is. It's as if God is saying that it's okay to be hard soil, rocky soil, thorny soil, or good soil, because each type of soil contributes uniquely to the rehabilitation of the ecosystem when times are tough. Each type of soil contributes over the long haul to the miraculous 100-fold yield of grain. The three bears show us how we can participate in an ecology of care in our homes. The parable of the sower shows us that how we can participate in an ecology of care with the earth. And God creates us to be just right, with diverse gifts and limitations to bring about a more fruitful, more loving, more just, more joyful, more beautiful world. If we focus on the entire ecosystem of either of our stories, we begin to see possibilities and let go of panic. In Goldilocks and the Three Bears, we see that the self-aware bears have a home that suits them well, though perhaps it could use an extra chair in case a visitor stops by, or an extra mic stand. In the parable of the soils, we see that the generous sower is cultivating the ecosystem for the long term, not just for one growing season and one harvest. How might we bring these ecological and collective understandings of just right to our own lives? How are we living in God's ecology of care? In our own stories, how might we move from panic to possibility using the lens of these two stories, Goldilocks and the parable of the soil? How might we see ourselves as part of an ecosystem rather than as isolated individuals panicking to find what's just right for us without concern for others in the cereal aisle? A friend recently shared with me a social change ecosystem map created by Deepa Iyer. The map places equality, liberation, justice, and solidarity at its center. You might put other values at the center of your ecosystem map. I, for example, would add joy to the center of my map, and maybe beauty also. The values in the center are surrounded by 10 roles that people and organizations show up in when they are responding to crises, participating in social change movements, or organizing collectively to advance a cause, Iyer says. She names 10 roles as part of the social change ecosystem: weavers, experimenters, frontline responders, visionaries, builders, caregivers, disruptors, healers, storytellers, and guides. Do any of those strike a chord with you? Does one or maybe two sound familiar and life-giving to you? I'll read the list again so you can let your attention drift until you hear one that sounds like it might be just right for you in God's ecology of care. Weaver, experimenter, frontline responder, visionary, builder, caregiver, disruptor, healer, storyteller, guide. Don't let this list of 10 induce panic. It's not intended to be a list of 10 commandments or 10 requirements for each of us, but instead a list of possibilities for how together we can contribute to an ecosystem of what we care most deeply about. It's better for God's ecology and for ourselves if we only do one or two of them, and we do them well rather than running ourselves ragged trying to do several. Another resource this same friend shared with me presents a slightly different set of roles to help us see possibilities rather than to panic. The quiet subversive, the distributor of information, the educator, the volunteer, the rester, anyone napping or need one later on? The creator, artists, musicians, the marcher, the churchgoer, the financial supporter. Perhaps one of these roles is just right for you in the work of liberation, resistance, and joy-making. We can all put a check mark beside churchgoer today, if we want to. even those of you on Zoom, it counts. And each congregation represented here has its own list of roles that help create God's ecology of care within and beyond our walls, helping us see possibilities rather than panic in the challenges among and around us. God has created us in God's image and has created us to live in an ecology of care for ourselves, for one another, for all creation. God longs for our wholehearted participation in this ecology of care, equipping each of us uniquely to counter all that is evil and ugly and impoverished, trivial and wretched and tyrannical in our world and in ourselves. May we find our place, what is just right, what is good for us in God's ecology of care, to the benefit of all creation. Amen.
May we be so present to ourselves, to each other. May we be so present to ourselves, to each other, to the wider world, to the wider knowing, that our collective understanding reveals to us with utter simplicity that which is just right for us and for the ecology of care within which we are inextricably linked. Go in joy, go in a sense of community.